Welcome to Table Talk, where there's always room at the table. I am your host, Jonathan Harmon of the J Harmon Home Team, and we can't wait to talk to these fine guests. Enjoy the show. Hey, Trent.
Hey, Jonathan.
How are you?
I'm super duper. How are you?
You are super duper. What you got the hat on backwards for today?
I'm feeling sporty.
Yeah,
Feeling edgy.
A little more aerodynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can move so much faster.
That's good. That's good. Hey, welcome to Table Talk. My name's Jonathan Harmon. I'm with the J Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams. And Trent and I've been brainstorming on some different guests to have on, some different ways to do things. And he suggested, hey, you should have some of your past clients on.
Oh.
And then I started thinking, I'm like, ooh,
seems pretty logical.
Should I have some of my past clients on? I'm not sure if I'm.
And you chose me.
I know.
What is wrong with you?
I know. I don't know. But so anyway, today we've got one of the J Harmon Home Team's past clients, Mrs. Christie McIntyre. And since I've known you, that's happened.
That's right. When you first met me, it was Miss.
That's it.
Wasn't Mrs.
That's it.
Yeah,
and you had a 3-pound dog.
That's
I
exactly
remember.
right. And she's now 15. So how life changes.
That's awesome.
Oh, it was awesome. I just remember you always refer. I have no idea what your dog's name is. It's just
Sophie.
3-pound dog.
Well, you know,
that's all you refer to her as.
Right. Her name changes probably hourly, right? Just
Really?
depending on what mood we're in.
Yeah. And
But
how often she gets under your feet and everything else, right?
Exactly right.
That's awesome.
That's exactly right.
So we're going to do all kinds of stuff today. We're going to have a good time. We are going to talk about some fears that are associated with the real estate process.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the current market.
Yeah.
And I like to do kind of that man on the street thing.
Yeah.
And then if we have time, we have a little conversation to have. I have this list of kind of, Trent, do I use the word controversial? I mean, I don't really want to use that word.
I don't love that word either.
No,
Let's
but
call it necessary.
Necessary.
Man.
Oh,
That's good.
Yeah.
Good
That's
job,
off
man.
the top. Yeah.
thought-provoking.
Hey,
Thought provoking. That's good.
the backwards hat is working,
I
dude.
know. It just
Right?
brings out the greatness. I don't know.
Brings out the greatness.
But before we launch into all of that, we need to hear from our friend Bryan Nale over at Primis Mortgage and hear what he has to say about nailing your mortgage.
Still so good.
Hey, my name is Bryan Nale. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Primis Bank Mortgage, and I want to tell you that I absolutely love being a member of the Spread the Positive Network. It's such a great mission,
Love
and
having
it helps bring so much positivity to our community. It's a true pleasure to be part of. There are a lot of ways to navigate financing a home, and in markets like this, having the advice of a trusted local professional is key to making
Dance,
sure
baby.
you get the right advice for your specific circumstances. Whether you're interested in the purchase of a new home, second home, or have a need for a refinance, I'd love to earn your trust. If I can help you nail your mortgage, call me at 615-243-3976 or visit nailyourmortgage.com, and I'll be happy to talk with you.
Primis Mortgage is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC, equal housing opportunity. As always, all loans are subject to approval. Primis Mortgage, NMLS 1894879.
So, Bryan, I apologize for chatting just a minute in between during your little commercial there, but Trent is over there doing the Night at the Roxbury head bob thing. I was waiting for him to put a hole in the drywall like when they blew the window out that time. Anyway, so yeah,
Classic.
I do apologize for that.
That's great.
Were you Chris Kattan in that one or the other guy? Which
I'm
one?
gonna go Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Yeah, you Will
I was
Ferrell.
driving it. Yep.
Oh, gotcha.
All right. Glad we know that reference.
Yes. All right. So,
All right.
Christy.
So Christy.
No, you're Christy. I'm
I'm
Jonathan.
Christy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jonathan.
Make sure we get that right.
Right.
We are
You and I worked together on 2 transactions, right? The
That's
purchase of a home and the sale of a home.
Sell a home. Yeah.
When was that? What?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the purchase of the home was, I believe,
12?
in 12.
Yep.
And the sale of the home was 3 years later in 15.
Has it been that long?
I know.
It's
right?
20. That's 7 years ago.
I know.
Good gracious.
If you play your cards right, there's another one in potential motion.
Everybody back off.
Hey,
All of you
get out of here.
thirsty agents out
I
there.
know.
Get out of
But
here.
so let's set the stage just a little bit. So I think how did we met at an open house? Maybe, does that sound right?
We did. I had multiple poor agent experiences,
Mhm.
and I had decided to go on my own. And you were hosting an open house back in the days of a yuck market,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is
like you had to
when-
work.
Yeah, this is when you had to work as a real estate agent.
Hmm.
And we struck up a conversation in that open house. I was attending on my own as a buyer,
Hmm.
looking at the house and, deciding if it was going to fit my plan. And you said, "Oh, let me convince you of all the reasons why you need me."
That's it. I think I even remember what house it was. Wasn't it in Living Springs?
It was.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was that gray house with the funky floor plan.
That's right.
I
See?
do remember that. I remember that
Yes,
well.
I know.
And it took us a little bit because we ended up doing a new construction home.
We ended up doing a new construction, and probably what won you my business for life in my reference, right? Because you have been introduced to family members and friends
Mhm.
as a result to me, and you probably are not thrilled with that, but sometimes
You
you're
know,
going,
you do what you got to do, but
right? I believe one of those real estate transactions with one of my family members might have been one of your most painful.
oh,
Julie's?
no,
No.
no, it's not even top 10.
Not even top 10. Okay.
She was great.
So it's gotten way worse than that. Okay. So no, what won that was not only what you brought from a value add, but also, I mean, you were just the ultimate of patience because, I mean, gosh, was I your longest searching client? It was over a year.
Yeah. No. I have some that have beaten
So
that.
it gets worse than even me.
Every time you think you're the big dog on the playground, there's a bigger dog that steps
Somebody goes
on.
bolder.
That's it.
That's right. Go big or go home.
But here's the thing, and this is kind of where we're leading is in a big transaction, in any big transaction, I don't care if it's buying a new refrigerator, buying a new car, buying a house, any big transaction, there's a certain amount of anxiety and big in the transaction world is of course relative to your income and things like that.
Right.
For some people, buying a $1,500 refrigerator is like me going and buying a pack of gum. Okay, that's cool, right?
Right.
But if I'm thinking about buying a $1,500 refrigerator or $2,000 refrigerator,
right,
or a $15,000 used car, I'm going to do a lot of work because $2,000 doesn't just come easy.
Right.
I know I can account for the
Right.
hours that it took me to make that money. And when you multiply that times 100 plus,
Mhm.
when we're talking about a house, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety
Mhm.
that goes in there, whether you realize that it's anxiety or not, because it can be a joyous time as well.
Right.
It's still, it's what is it? I see the statistic thrown around every now and then. It's like the second or third or fourth most stressful time in your
Right.
life.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what were those fears? What were those anxieties? Why did it take that long, I guess?
I think the key to solving for some of that fear is hiring the right and trusting that agent, acknowledging from the get-go. And I think that's what the fear is, right? You cannot control the process and you're not subject matter expert in the process. And so knowing that you're not subject matter expert and knowing that you don't have the knowledge you need to do this on your own, it's not like buying a new pair of shoes, right? I mean, you can acquire a great deal of information, but then there is still some mystery in the real estate transaction around financing, around offers, around fairness in that offer, expectation in that offer.
Well, and even
price setting,
even
when you're selling.
what could I actually, what are my options?
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that the mysteries, if you
Mhm.
will, is you don't, it's cliche at this point, but you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But that's absolutely can make it an okay transaction or a
Mhm.
great transaction or a really lousy transaction.
And frankly, that's the difference between an exceptional real estate agent and a sort of par or subpar real estate agent, right? The one who is exceptional has afforded you the right kind of counsel and advice that you trust and you have confidence in. And so you almost give over some of your decision making to them,
Mhm.
right?
But at least the exposure
Right.
of what the decision
Mhm.
is, you
Mhm.
know, if I say, hey, we've got 5 options here, you
Mhm.
know, then we have 5 options here.
That's right.
You know, there's not a 6th one that I left out.
That's exactly
You
right.
know, I'll tell you, having worked with other folks that have kind of tried to go it on their own, the other piece of that, the flip side of that, of the you don't know what you don't know, sometimes you know so much
Mhm.
that you take in all these different scenarios, you take in all these things, and you don't have the experience to go with the information to
Mhm.
be able to filter out the garbage and synthesize the right path.
That's right.
Right. So I've known a lot of folks that have that, another cliche here, analysis paralysis, where, you know, they just think and think and think, but they don't act.
That's true.
And so some of what we do is to say, no, this is probably your best option.
Right. You have to acknowledge your strengths and then you have to know your weaknesses, and rely in, and that's why, to your point, that's why doing it on your own is so much more challenging, because if your real estate agent is your partner, then he is supporting your weaknesses, right? He's filling in for those weakness gaps, and everybody's got them. And if you think
including the agent.
Right. And if you think you don't have any weaknesses, then you're wrong and you're lying to yourself and you just don't know how to self-assess, right?
Sure.
But yes, to that point, yes, your real estate agent has weaknesses and then you as well. And if the pairing is ideal, then
you make a great team.
You make a good team.
Yeah. So real quick, rapid fire, what are some specific fears that you had in the buying process?
Probably financing was a big fear. How to accomplish all of that in the timing that I needed. The selection was a big fear. And then, you know, you and I rolled into a new construction home. And then it was all of the decisions that you had to make and making them quickly.
Building a house is no joke, y'all.
It's no joke. And acknowledging that you can't have everything you want. People think that they're going to build a house and they're going to get everything. No, you can't have everything you want.
Oh, you can. You can.
You can. It's going to take a long time and a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah. Way more than what the house is probably worth.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and then for me, a lot of it was reordering that thought process that this was forever. So, the home purchase is so big that you think you're one and done. You're not one and done.
Almost never. And that's, I hope that I never do this in a way that sounds condescending, but sometimes people will say, oh, this is our forever home. And they're like, 32. And I'm like, guys, it's not. I mean, it's just not.
It's not.
Maybe you'll be here 10 years. You might even be here 12 or 15. That's possible. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be your forever. That doesn't happen.
No,
it just doesn't happen.
No. And getting into that was an early fear that I started rolling out of. Like, I remember pulling up to my new construction home in the middle of construction and seeing a set of stairs and I cried because I didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking to myself, it
was a hell of a set of stairs too.
Right. Yes, it was.
I remember that. And I remember the phone call.
Yes. And it was that moment in time when I had to reorder that thought for myself that this is not the forever home,
Mhm.
right? You know, that this decision is not permanent and forever. And in that moment in time, right, I had no idea that 3 years later, this man was going to come into my life and I'm going to be selling this home, right?
Yeah. Talk about not forever, right?
So yeah, nothing.
That wasn't even like,
that wasn't even long term.
that wasn't even a blip on the radar that
Right.
that was, yeah.
I barely finished my landscaping before.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So excellent segue. You're a fantastic guest, by the way. So we'll talk about the buying process. 3 years later, we go
You
into
tell
the
that to
selling.
everybody.
Yeah. What? I don't actually. No. Trent knows exactly who I thought of as soon as I said, no, I don't.
No, I don't.
We-
You know, you
Oh,
don't
man.
need to name names. This is not a good list to be on.
no,
You don't want to be on a list that's not
Great
no-
dude. Just anyway,
well.
Oh,
it's the South. Bless his heart.
Yeah.
So now let's talk on the selling side. So we're 3 years in. You've got this house.
Mhm.
I mean, you've poured a lot,
Mhm.
not money, some money, but you poured a lot of yourself in there, the
Right.
colors and everything
Yeah.
else. And all right, time to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you were motivated,
Mhm.
you know, by
Mhm.
love and all that. But there's still some fear there, you know, and there's some trepidation. There's some,
Oh.
is this the right thing? And is this the right way? And is
Absolutely.
what is that like?
The biggest fear you have in the moment of sale, I think, is how to price. And in my opinion,
Me too, by the way.
right. And in my opinion, again, that is where your decision on who you work with as a real estate agent will make or break that transaction.
Hmm.
You have to choose a real estate agent that will be honest with you, because everybody wants more than they're going to get.
Sure.
Everybody does.
We had a guy, an agent from Exit on yesterday on a different podcast, Brad Hopkins, shout out to Brad. And he said it great. So in this current market, sellers are 12 months behind right
Mhm,
now,
mhm.
and buyers are 12 months ahead
Mhm.
right now. And in a changing market like we're in,
Mhm.
that is a gulf. It is a massive,
Mhm.
massive difference. But yeah, to your point, everybody wants to hold on to whatever better times it was.
Right. That's exactly right. And you have to, and again, you know, nothing about me hesitated about calling you when it was time to sell. And primarily because you demonstrated that those characters I needed in that sale, right, in my prior buy. So when we were building that house, you'd look at me and you'd go, Christy, the builder's not going to do that.
Mhm.
I don't care what you want. They're not going to do that. Right. And truthfully, you know, that's hard to say to a client who's standing there going, but I want, right. You
Mhm,
know, I'm the kid with the cookie in the floor.
What was the thing about the stairs in the front? Because there was a turn and
Right. So one of the things that they did was they put the stairs, internal stairs, in wrong.
mhm.
They put them facing towards the back of the house, and they were supposed to be facing towards the front of the house. And when I caught it, you said they're not going to bring those down and turn them around.
No.
And I'm like,
If it was a custom home, probably.
Yeah.
But it was just barely semi-custom.
right. And they were far enough along in the framing process, and you were not wrong. You were never wrong in that process.
Mhm.
And there were a couple of things you really helped me fight for. So it wasn't that you were always telling me no and agreeing with there were a couple of things you really helped me fight for. I don't know if you remember it all, but like the front steps that the proposals that they had were just
awful.
hideous,
Yeah,
right?
terrible.
And then the steps in the garage, again, hideous. But you helped me fight for the things that made sense. And then you helped reorder my expectation for the things that made sense too.
Right.
So when you're selling, you need to trust. And again, I think a real estate agent has to bring to you all of that evidence of what's happening in the market around you, right? Very around you. Like the house is next door, right? Around you, so that you're comfortable with, when you set that price, you're comfortable with that price.
Well, and I'll tell you, like in this market, and again, great segue, is the market, sometimes it's very predictable. It's relatively boring, and we can go, I mean, even as exciting as the market was the last 3 years, it was a little bit predictable in its unpredictability, right? We knew it was going, we knew it was trending up, we knew it was trending up at a certain pace. We could get pretty darn close to predict. Now, sometimes it blew our expectations away. Rarely did it let us down, right? This season in our market, it's all over the freaking board.
Right.
I mean, it's up, it's down, it's sideways, it's backwards, it's, going in a spiral. I mean,
But again, you're using your real estate agent in those moments in time to help you navigate that experience, right? So,
and sometimes the experience is, we're going to try this,
and then we're going to change.
But I have
fail fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fail fast. Don't be scared to say, hey,
nope, that wasn't it.
That wasn't it. And move it. And acknowledge on both sides of the equation that that's possible, right? I wanted too much. You let me go out with too much. We didn't personally do that, but right. I took your recommendation for road, right? I for love, I was moving on to 100 acres down the road.
Hi, Jim.
some cows and sheep, or goats, actually. So there was a strong emotional investment to get it gone.
Right.
And you made a recommendation, and I said, run.
Let's do it.
Right.
Yep.
And then I've watched you, I watched you sell his mother-in-law's house, or sell his mother's house, my mother-in-law's house. And I watched you come into that transaction after another failed. And again, it's how well you pick up on when you're getting good advice, and how well you follow it, and how fast you fail.
Yeah. And that's just it. One of the things that is a really delicate balance in this profession is, I mean, let's be honest, you got to have a certain amount of ego to sit across the table from someone and say, I know how to handle your biggest asset. I mean, there's a certain amount of ego just to be able to do that. But then there's a certain amount of ego that you need to let go of to go, missed that one.
Yeah.
Let's fix it.
Right. Yeah.
And here's the plan. Here's plan B, C, D, E.
Right. Right.
And it's possible we'll get to E. Does that mean that we failed? I mean, A didn't work, but that doesn't mean that we overall failed.
No. In volatility, being flexible and being able to adjust based on what you're seeing in that moment is probably key to any success, and a real estate transaction is no different.
Well, and I think part of it also is being open to, what's the word? Open to being wrong in your preconceived notions. So anytime, and this will take us to the current market. Anytime I sit across the table from someone and I deliver, here's values, here's this, they've already got in their head an idea of what that house should be. They've already, they've talked to a neighbor, they've looked at Zillow, they've, whatever. So they have some idea in their head of what it is. And oftentimes I'll exceed it, but oftentimes comes in a little light.
Sure.
And you have to be open to the fact that your preconceived notion may not be accurate.
Right.
And some people just aren't.
No, I mean.
And you can find an agent to tell you anything that you want.
You can find an agent to tell you anything that you want. And we can get all of our weather on the Weather app. Right? So we have to accept that we don't know all things, and we have to entertain the idea that we could be wrong. And we also have to look at, I mean, this is not brain surgery. Nobody's dying here today, right?
Not usually.
This is a real estate transaction.
Sometimes they're already gone. Just
Well,
saying.
Just saying. It's possible. That's true.
Tacky joke. I do apologize. Anybody that's dead and watching, I apologize for that.
Death is a serious thing.
It is. It's part of life.
Right. Well, actually, it's not. You're no longer living.
No,
But
it's part of it. It's the end of it.
it's the end of it. Yeah.
No, it's just
the
part,
last act.
right? It's like
Okay.
running the credits is still part of the movie.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'll go with that one. I like that one. I'm going to borrow that one. But
I just made that up 100%.
I mean, seriously though, if you set the price of the home and it's not, and it doesn't go right, what's the worst thing that's happening next? You're adjusting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Sometimes a lot. All right. Current market.
Current market.
I know you stay fairly well educated on stuff. So
I try.
what are you feeling? Share your feelings with the group
Share my
about the current market, where we are. You know, we've talked a couple of times where it's been, where it is, where it's going. Optimistic, pessimistic, where you at?
You know what? So I may be the only one left in the optimistic space,
Interesting.
but I am optimistic. Do I think we're going to see a shift? Yes, but I think we literally are in a bubble. And so, yeah, we're going to see some adjustment, but I don't like the word, it's crashing. I hate crash. That implies, catastrophe and
Destruction.
and death. And I just don't think from real estate to stock markets to anything, I think there are enough checks and balances in place. Yes, we can see downturns. We can see, a bubble burst or reduce. And so do I feel like we're probably on the path to, it not selling in the first 5 days at way over its listed price? Yeah, I think we're probably moving out of some of that phase, but I don't know how far we're moving. Like mine sold in 30 back in 2015, sold in 30 days. And I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation of the real estate market. I don't consider that a crash. I don't consider that a failure. I consider that still a very robust, active real estate market.
Yes. And I'll tell you, I always compare it to the moving sidewalk in an airport, right? So the past 3 years, we have been basically sprinting down the moving sidewalk. And when you get to the end of the conveyor belt, you can still be sprinting, but it feels like you hit a wall, and you could start walking and it feels like you're almost going backwards. And I feel like we're somewhere in between the off the moving sidewalk, still running, jogging, maybe power walking.
Right. Did we sprint and now we're out of breath? And so we're walking on the moving sidewalk still. So there's still movement forward and
just not quite as fast.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. We've got about 5 minutes, and I told you to pick one of our. I took my list of like 40 some odd.
Right.
What was it? Necessary conversations. Is that what it was? Necessary.
Yeah.
And I picked 5 of them, and I said, "You pick from these." And then you showed up, and you're like, "Well, I thought you were going to pick." I was like, "No, I narrowed 40 down to 5. Come on." So anyway,
it's like a girl. I can't pick where I'm going to eat for dinner.
That is the worst conversation ever to have, isn't it? It's terrible. We can, and then when we get there, what do you want? Oh. Anyway, all right. So
I could really derail you right now.
You could, and I'm pretty easy to derail. Not gonna lie. So, one of the things that I think about decently often is, and I hear some version of this frequently when I talk to friends, family, coworkers, whatever, just people in general, and especially when it's people that look and are similar to myself. Okay. And that is I call it the I'm a good person trap. And it manifests in several different ways. Sometimes it's self affixed, right? Yeah, I really am demonstrating. This is not actually my opinion, just so you know. So demonstration of the I'm a good person trap. Yeah, I really just don't, I really don't think that filling a religion or whatever, I really don't think that they're very smart, or I really don't think that they're very good, or I really think that they're dangerous, or I really think that they're whatever.
Right.
But, overall, I'm a good person.
Right.
Or talking about somebody else. Yeah, he's a little bit racist, but he's a pretty good person.
Right.
And I've started to really question that, and multiple questions. Is overall being a good person enough to excuse some major character flaw that would be the anti-good person? Right. Does it make you not a good person if you're, quote, a little racist? You know what I mean? I actually heard that phrase a few months ago, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? A little racist. You either are. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't.
I would couch that with we all are.
Interesting.
So I don't think we ever lose that. And my opinion is that there's a quality of good person, and some are higher quality than others.
A sliding scale of
goodness.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. I would couch that. I won't name the person who said this, and I have come to, we were talking about it before we got on. I think we come out of the womb bad, and we have to be taught good.
Interesting. Do we come out of the womb bad or ignorant? And ignorance can manifest in rudeness and badness. And
think about small children. What do you constantly have to do?
Oh my God, throw them against the wall. No, I'm just kidding.
You have to tell them no.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. You have to teach them the right behavior and the good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
They rarely have to be taught the bad thing to do.
That's a good point.
And so I think we are all evolving good people.
But the flip side of that, so I'll choose racism in this piece of the conversation, is anytime you see a group of children, I'm almost never do you see children acting in a racist manner.
Well, that's because they are truly colorblind. And I don't believe as adults, which is the reason why I believe we're all racist. I don't believe we're colorblind. And I believe people who profess to be are lying to themselves.
So then you have to teach yourself to be if you're going to be?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we lose
So where do you lose it? So if you look at a group of 3-year-olds and they're all playing and they don't give a rip what color you are. Right. Or if you're in a wheelchair, if you're, whatever, they don't care. Let's just play.
Adults teach us that.
But when do we pick up on that?
So think about, and now I'm really going to get in trouble, and everybody who's listening to this is going to hate me and go, why did you invite her on this? Okay. So
civil conversation. This is good. This is healthy.
So think about George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Can we entertain the possibility that it had nothing to do with color and everything to do with fear?
What do you mean? Who was that the police officer was afraid?
So, yes. So why do we think they're not afraid? So think about those circumstances from a law enforcement standpoint. If you are law enforcement, should you have to do more than ask somebody to stop to get them to stop?
That's a fair point. But you also, there's all kinds of buts on that.
Yeah. So, and then when you get into a physical altercation, where is just the human fear point? How do we know his brain wasn't assessing, this man is larger than me, stronger than me, I'm scared. What if he gets my gun? What if he gets on top of me?
Mm-hmm.
We characterize it, and legitimately so, I think, because we're now sensitive to it. We're characterizing this because it is a white person and a black person interacting with each other. But we do colorblind. So the 3-year-old says that it wasn't a white person and a black person engaged with each other. It was just two men. That's what your children are doing, right? They're just playing with each other. They're not seeing
Mhm.
that color, and they don't come at each other either happy or angry.
It's just another person.
It's just another person. And I'm not sure as adults that we engage that way. I think
I get that. So why? And where do we fall off of that? Because quite frankly, the world would be much better if we did approach things the way that the 3-year-old does, on that piece of it. And we're able to say, I don't like this person because he was mean to me, not I don't like this person because they're fill in the blank with a demographic.
Right.
Where do we lose that? I'm sure it's different for different people, different circumstances, all of that kind of thing.
Right. I think, do we lose some of it in our efforts to try to compensate for the minority? Because then we start pointing it out. I mean, I get why we try to level set playing fields and those kinds of things, but then you start calling out the differences. And when you start calling out the differences, then
it almost magnifies the difference.
Right. Then yes, your 3-year-old now sees himself playing with a person of color or a person of different cultural descent.
Yeah, whatever demographic.
Whatever it is. Right. A boy versus a girl.
I've thought about that before. Are we whatever-ist because we're aware of differences? And it is true that people mostly tend to flock to the same, right? I mean, you think about your friend group, almost, many people, their friend group looks, thinks, acts, works, whatever, just like them. Not always.
Right.
And there's always exceptions. But oftentimes that's a case, right? So do we flock to sameness? And is that why we are hesitant about differences? And if that's true, how in the world do we how do we fix that? And should we?
The should we, I think, is an interesting question because, if we take it into a difference.
Sure.
Boy versus girl, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, camping this weekend with a group of 8 couples, and repeatedly noticed the girls are all sitting in a collective, the boys are all in a collective,
and these are grown,
these are
adults
people,
that have been married that are
that have intermingled with the opposite sex for years, right? Lots of years of marriage.
We flock to sameness.
And we even champion that to a degree, right? I mean, some would postulate that if, let's say, I were to adopt an African-American child, some would postulate that I would need to understand that culture in order to give them the full experience of their heritage, right? Which implies that there is a difference between my experience and my heritage and theirs, even though
and I would say that there definitely is a difference. I mean, anybody that would talk to you would say that the American experience is different for people of color. Good, bad, indifferent. It's different.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, it's negatively different. And that's part of the reason, like going full circle here, that's part of the reason. How do we get past the point where it's different? And back to what you said, and I actually disagree with this, is that by, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but by trying to fix some of the injustices and inequalities and things like that, we actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but you basically said we kind of exacerbate some of those inequalities.
I think so.
Because it puts it on the forefront. I don't know that I don't know if I agree with that or not. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Well, so what if we ask ourselves to accept differences and not grade one better versus the other one, right? So like as a female, I can sit here and I can think in my head that, you know, I'm smarter, better multitasking, etc. than a male. But that doesn't make me better than a male. That makes me different than a male. Yes, I multitask. And that is not uniquely, I think men are more singly focused. I think that's their strength. My strength is multitasking. His strength is to be able to more singly focus.
But is that men or is that you and Jim?
Me and Jim. Right. But I do think there's some, I do think some of that is men as well. I do think I can generally characterize without lumping everybody in. But acknowledging that, and then I think where we go wrong, right? And then where we compensate is, oh, so the female is better than the male, or the male is better than the female.
And then you take that a step further, and because of that, I'm going
to do this, right, to compensate.
To try to help them.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
And, you know, I'm not sure, again, all my opinion, don't know if it matters or not.
Yeah.
I think we all deal with this. And so I think when a good person says, or when a person says he's a good person, but he's just a little bit racist, I think what you're really calling out is that they just haven't done that self-awareness thing as deeply as someone else has, right? I think we're a project all of our lives.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. And I think that in order for you to do better, number one, you have to admit that there is a better, right?
Right.
So if I'm, quote, just a little bit racist, I need to acknowledge that a little bit racist is still racist, and I probably don't need to be a little bit racist.
Right.
And remember the old G.I. Joe cartoon, and knowing is half the battle, right? So if I know that and I want to fix that, and I want not fix you,
right? No.
Fix me, and
right.
the way that I have to start seeking out ways to fix it. I have to start seeking
right.
out ways and acknowledging, ooh, what I just said, bam, right there, that moment right there,
right?
That was not sensitive, and that was not that little comment, that one
right.
was a little racist. I'm still a good person.
Right.
You know.
Right. We build, though, I think sometimes there's a consequence to every action, right? So like we have to start asking ourselves now, I think, in things like diversity and inclusion. It was interesting. I had an experience recently where somebody pointed out that diversity does not include white males. That's a perception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And a lot of white males hold that perception. How did that give birth? What in our actions gave birth to that? Well, and I think
perception.
I think for me that is an acknowledgement that if you have an initiative for inclusion, whatever that is, right? And I have a good friend, Abdu. I think Trent, I quote him like once a month, don't I? Abdu's thing is when we seek out diversity, right, and we want to have a company or a policy of inclusion, it is not, we want to make sure we have, you know, this many black people and this many Hispanic people and this many white people and this many, you know, whatever. It's not that, or this many men and this many women or this many whatever. It's not that.
Because now what are you focused on when you're doing that?
Everything other than work, honestly.
Right.
And his thing is, what you want to nurture is a culture that is diverse in thought,
right,
and experience, Right. And that should, if you really are doing that, it should naturally create
exactly
the stuff that you can see.
Exactly. The reason that perception is alive and well out there is because too many people divine diversity by those statistical
Demographics.
those demographics, because we can count that, right? We can count the number of Asians. We can count the number of Hispanics. We can, instead of closing our eyes, being colorblind, and asking ourselves, in the room, do we have differences of opinions and thoughts and ideas, so that
come from differences of experience and culture and
right. And then subsequently, the whatever we're working towards is a compromise of that diverse thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Trent, you got anything?
Not really.
Trent's like, she wouldn't shut up.
I don't really have anything to add, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. So these are the kind of conversations that we want to have. These are the things that if we can share these things, and we can disagree sometimes, and often we disagreed a little, but not much. But if we care to grow a culture that is educated, that is thoughtfully considering things like diversity, that is thoughtfully considering other people's opinions. I'll just tell you, I didn't even send you some of the stuff that was on my list. And there's some stuff on there that I don't know that I can have a conversation in front of other people
Really?
about. I don't know. I don't know. I've never done it. It causes anxiety for me,
Oh.
But if we can have these conversations, we can
You should
practice
try.
it. We just did.
Yeah. I mean, even the hard stuff.
Oh, I know.
Because
And in some cases, this is a hard conversation to have.
there's value to it. We're so emotional now about this stuff.
Well, my least favorite thing in the entire world is when you get on Facebook and somebody has said, "This is my opinion, and if you don't agree, you can unfriend me now." And I'm like, "Well, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. How about we have a conversation? How about we sit down face to face, cup
Right.
of coffee, whatever.
Right.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
And let me see why I disagree with you. Maybe we agree on 85%.
Right.
We actually only disagree on 15.
Right. And maybe we disagree on a lot more than that. But if we're listening, the best way to understand and find that compromise is to understand the opposite
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
And maybe there isn't a compromise. Maybe we're just going to be different.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Doesn't mean we can't be friends, and it doesn't mean that we can't live in the same space.
Right.
Right.
Because we're going to live in the same space.
Because remember, we're looking for
Sound-wise.
that diversity.
Yeah.
If we all agree, there's no need for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst thing in the world is to wake up and look around yourself and everybody looks like you. I don't want to do
think
that.
so. I think so. Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
So,
wholeheartedly. Okay. Sorry.
Christy,
I'll shut up now.
this has been fun. Thank you so much.
That was
And thank
good.
you for being bold and having that conversation with me, because
that was cool.
it's hard. And everybody worries about other people's opinion, and I tend not to sometimes. So
Yeah.
sometimes to my detriment, but
I might be guilty of that myself.
yeah, it happens. So,
You know.
all right. Thank you, Bryan Nale, again for sponsoring Table Talk and choosing to help spread the positive.
Yes, sir.
Bryan,
Thank
we
you,
love
Bryan.
you. Go nail your mortgage, or
I love that.
is that not fantastic?
I do.
I
I
know.
love that. Kudos
so
to
awesome.
him. That's a great tagline.
If you're interested in helping spread the positive, check this out. We're always looking for other shows. Did I see you post 40 shows? Is that what you're up
Yeah.
to now?
Yeah.
My man,
That's 41 on the roster.
that is
Go.
awesome.
Not all are as active as others, and
It
yeah,
happens.
There's some that might need to be removed, but hey,
Yeah. But
Still.
if you're interested in helping spread the positive, Trent is always looking for sponsors and
Trent's been
underwriters.
making faces behind my back, honey.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, lots of them.
No.
Just so you
Lots
know.
of them.
That's why
I-
you're sitting in that seat.
I thought he was gassy, but maybe not. So Anyway, thank you so much. If you have any real estate needs, give me a shout. If you just have questions or fears and you want to work through those, give me a shout about that as well. That's it. Have a good rest of the week.
Bye.